Hi, I'm Carolyn Meeks from Brunswick, Georgia. I'm appealing to y'all because I have been messed over and abused by the hospital here in Brunswick and doctors, and also by a lawyer who took my case. My story starts on December 12th, 2010. And I went to the hospital because I had been throwing up all day and had diarrhea and felt I was dehydrated and had a fever. I got there about 10 o'clock at night. I was seen, and around 2 o'clock that morning, they came into my room, the physician, and told me that it was my appendix and wanted to know the name of my surgeon. I don't have a surgeon, so they told me they'd call who was on call, which was Dr. Beach. He was called, but never showed back to the hospital till 9 o'clock the next morning, at which time he took my appendix laparoscopically. When I came out of recovery and all, he sent me home with my daughter, and that was December 20th. On Christmas Day, I was still sick. My daughter had called him several times during that week to tell him that I couldn't get up. I was still throwing up and all, and he claimed I was babying. His office told him I was babying myself to make me get up, to force me to eat. Well, I went back to the hospital Christmas night with a fever of 102. It was then discovered that when they took my appendix, that the stapled me and all, it had clipped my intestines. That they had to take me into surgery. I was filled with septic and pus pockets. They had to do a reconstruction and take an inch of my intestines, which the records were misplaced, I'm told, out of my file for a while. They are now back in my file when we questioned them about it. But I was in the hospital after that surgery for about a week and a half and sat home with what they call an open wet wound that my daughter had to keep changing the gauze and wetting it. Within a week and a half, I was back in the hospital in pain and still sick. My skin was ashen. I went and they said it was because they thought at first Crohn's disease and colitis, which was proved negative. They told me it was my body was run down and all because of the septic that had it absorbed and all. They got me better, and they kept me for a few more days to make sure, and I went downhill again. They did more testing, and it turned out it was my gallbladder. They took me into surgery, took my gallbladder. Within 3 days after taking my gallbladder, I went downhill and downhill and downhill. My body could not withstand another operation, major surgery, so they discovered that they made just a small incision and put a drain in because of infection still. They couldn't do a complete exploratory because of the fact, and they found out that the clip had released, but they could not take the chance to put the stent in my liver. I was on life support for 10 days because of this, in a drug-induced coma. My blood pressure bottomed out 3-4 times on them. Turned around, and when they finally, after giving me all the nutritions, blood, and everything IV, at one time I had 6 IVs in me, they took me back into surgery and put a stent in my liver because of that tubing where they had clamped off was so deteriorated. Finally, on March 3rd, 50 pounds lighter, I was released to go home. Had to go through therapy for several months because my muscles were so weak. I had to be able to walk again normally. I did walk with a walker and with a cane for a while, and went to therapy twice a week and all. And then that's about the medical, and the conditions were in the hospital were deplorable and dirty. That I was left in my own feces because I had no control, and told when I called them again, because it was about to happen again, was told that, oh, it's okay because we didn't clean you up from the last time. The doctor in the ICU, Dr. Grubb, was marvelous. He was very caring, very wonderful. Dr. Lassus, Dr. Barrett, and Dr. Beach, they're all in the same office, were the ones who did all the damage to me. And then, after I got out of the hospital, I consulted attorney John Dow in the 1st of April. He took my case, took a $2,000 retainer. He finally, a year and a half later, in September of 2012, he got some medical records with over 3,000 pages of medical records. This is what I got. He consulted a nurse assistant about it. And then on October 5th, he gave me a call, told me that the case wasn't worth pursuing, which only left me 2.5 months before the statute of limitations was up for the malpractice suit. I've called several lawyers in the Brunswick, Jacksonville, and Savannah area, and nobody will take the case because it's such a short time, only 2 months. They wouldn't have time to do all the reviewing and file, they claim. So I am out of luck. I believe there's some, maybe, I don't know, maybe a conflict of interest on him. It makes me wonder if he's reliable, ethical. What's going on? To wait a year and a half to do anything to begin with, and then give me 2 months to find somebody else? It seems like there's something wrong there. And I just want to get this story out to warn other people.